Good evening and welcome. You are tuned in and watching the Zone Blitz. This is the weekly webcast produced by NFL Female, www.nflfemale.com. Be sure to jump on our website and check out all the latest articles by our writers who cover not only the 32 teams but the divisions, and I cover the entire NFL. My name is Sharona, and I am the official fan reporter for the entire NFL for NFL Female. Without further ado, because we've got a special guest on tonight and we definitely want to get to him soon, I'm going to kick it over, as usual, to my co-host Sonja to let her introduce herself and bring everyone in.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sonja. I'm the official fan reporter for the Detroit Lions for NFL Female. You can find me on Twitter at mom3RN. And as always, I am glad to be back here on Tuesday nights. And we are joined tonight by, of course, Kate, our other co-host, and Ralph Cindrich. But first, let's start off with Kate real quick to say hi to everybody.
Hi, happy Victory Tuesday here in Browns Country. Every day is Victory Sunday.
Kate.
So yesterday was Victory Monday, today's Victory Tuesday, and it'll be a party all week because we may not get very many of these this season. So, hey, hope y'all are doing good. I'm awfully awesome this week.
Very good. You deserve it.
Yes, she does. Kate, of course, her Cleveland Browns beat the Tennessee Titans fairly decidedly early on, although they made a late comeback.
They did, and all of us who are Browns fans have been fans long enough to know that weird things happen here. So I just thought there was way too much time on the clock every time Mariota got the ball. So I wasn't breathing easy until it was over, and then it was a party.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later. Definitely an entertaining game, and Marcus Mariota is he's the real deal. I'm very excited to see what he can do this season. But we've got a special guest. We want to bring in Ralph Cindrich, let him introduce himself to you, and we're going to talk about his new book, NFL Brawler. So, Ralph, tell everyone out there who you are, a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about you can't ever say a little bit about yourself. Ralph Cindrich, that's Sin as in Cindy, rich as in money, and I don't have any. Played professional football, collegiate football at the University of Pittsburgh. Was also a wrestler. Went on from the University of Pittsburgh to the Atlanta Falcons, where I was drafted and cut. I was cut by Norm Van Brocklin. He later died with severe brain damage, and of course I knew that at the time I played for him. But went from there to the New England Patriots, where I played, and then got a little bit. I always had a big mouth, and maybe lift off a little bit too much to Tuck Fairbanks. And got cut there and picked up by the Houston Oilers and Bum Phillips, and just had a swell time there. And
I love you Blue days.
Love you Blue. That's what it was all about. We had Dante Pastorini. Now I got to tell you real quickly on Dante Pastorini's story, because I was on special teams. He was married to June Wilkerson. June Wilkerson was the Playboy bunny, and she had a big centerfold. I think she was the first one, And Sid comes in. Now, he was really touchy about that. And Sid Gilman was a Hall of Fame coach, and he was the coach there at the time. And Sid comes in and gives us a speech, because we know that's coming out. And he says, "You guys know, you're pros, you're professionals, darn it. You know what you're supposed to do, and this is a tough time. You're going to rally around your quarterback. He's your leader on the team, and let's do things right." So we thought, well, let's rally around him, and we should honor him and his wife, June. And we had money to buy something, but we thought, why not just draw some art on the picture and hang it up in his locker? So we all put our little fine art all over his picture. Dante comes in, he sees that hanging up in his locker, he rips it down, he goes out, and we don't see him for, I think, 48 hours.
Wow.
Sid come in, and Sid was a great teacher, and this was a good or a great teaching moment for Sid. He just came in and shaking his head like this. He didn't have to say, "You dumb." We knew
what.
He took us out there, and he just ran us until we dropped. And that was not a very nice ending to a happy celebration that we had for a player and a teammate like Dante.
Yeah.
But it ended.
The quarterbacks always get the supermodels and the playboys and all of that, or the pop stars, I suppose, Russell Wilson
Yeah.
and Ciara now. But
Yes, they do. Let me finish that. I used to always hang around the quarterbacks and just take their leftovers. You know, there'd be chicks bouncing
Smart
off of him.
move.
They'd be going left and right. I'd be saying, that
you
was
are the
good.
smart
I'll
man.
take that one.
That's a very smart move.
Yes.
Here's a shoulder for you to cry on, honey. Come on over here and I'll make you feel better. I might have pulled a few slick moves like that myself in my lifetime. Who knows? But this
Once
is
or
we're
twice,
not talking.
maybe.
We're not talking about me. One of the things, and I'm not very far into it. By the way, Ralph just wrote a book about his experience as a player and an agent. And by the way, he was the first, a groundbreaker, the first player to become an attorney and then turn to be an agent, and really revolutionized the agent business in that fashion. And so he's written a book, and it's called NFL Brawler. And I just bought it. I'm very excited to read it. I just have started. It seems life gets in the way, and I've made mistake of adopting 2 adorable kittens that occupy way too much of my time. Tell us how that book came about.
Well, how it came about. You know, I knew starting with my first experience with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Chief, Art Rooney Sr., and almost everyone would love the opportunity to sit down in front of him, one of the most memorable characters, I think, in the NFL. And I got into a little beef. I was moving back into Pittsburgh, and I was asked by the manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates, Chuck Tanner, a real good, decent man, to represent a guy from the University of Pittsburgh by the name of Tom Brazoza. And Tom had broken his hand or thumb in an illegal practice. So he was a center, so he couldn't punch, and he couldn't even do it as a guard. And the long and short of it is that we got into a big beef. I ended up costing the Steelers a 3rd-round draft choice, and I had my monumental meeting with the Chief, which I knew was memorable, and I said, you know what, even from that time, I didn't know how it was going to end, but I knew that it was something that people would like, because who else has that experience? And so I started. It was way back, and I started with that one, and said, you know what? As I go along, I had some pretty interesting stories, and I kept them and finally unleashed them.
Well, by the way, I just had a nice discussion with Brad Wells, and he has your book too, and we're both jonesing about it. I can't wait to read it, and I know that there are some great stories in there. Now, you're an attorney by trade, so I know that you write a lot as well. How different was it to write a book as opposed to some of the dry legal stuff that we typically get associated with?
I've never had my nails pulled out, but I think this experience comes pretty close. I mean, I don't know that I ever want to do it again. I started somewhere around 2006, 2007, and sending out stories to book agents or book agent, and I ended up with an agent, and like everybody else who's had an agent, I got screwed, and I fired him. You know, it was it. But that's how it all came about, and then it's a matter of starting and writing it over and over and over until you just keep throwing up.
Until you keep throwing up.
It's a long, hard process. I didn't know that it was going to be quite as difficult, but once you get in, you have so much invested in it that you just say, and you have to make it a mission. You have to make it something like when you're getting up in the morning. That was my thing to do, and I had a certain amount of time, and I did it, and I was focused on it, and thank goodness it's done.
Yeah, I know from experience, my own writing experience. Writing about yourself is much different from writing about someone else. It's just a different process, and I can understand where you're coming from. I don't want to dominate the conversation. I want Sonja and Kate to come in and ask
Let me add,
questions
let me
too.
add one thing, and I'd like that, please. The one thing is, I am not the dominant figure in that. It's a story. Yeah, it starts at the beginning and has an ending, but it's a story about champions, and those champions are the guys that I represented, and it's a love story. I dedicate the book to my mother. My Zia Rosa, which in Italian, I'm half Italian, is my great aunt Rose, and the love of my life, my wife.
Mary.
So I dedicate it that way, and the other two are my little league coaches, and so
Aw.
it is a story that is, it's dear to me, obviously, but I go into it, but the clients are the ones who make the stories, and that's what it's about.
Mhm. Mhm. Very good. So, like, a couple questions. Well, my first one is, you
Take
played
it
in the
easy.
NFL
Yes.
a few years before the times now. How do you see NFL, the league changing? How has it changed from when you played?
My wife says to me that I have to be very clean and very smart. So I'm not going to talk about NFL Brawler talk and all the rest. You know, in the olden days, though, I mean, and I may have said it here. I mean, you can't. If you took a pee in a back alley, nobody knew. Today, everybody knows. If you're a professional, if you're a professional athlete, it's out there. You have to conduct yourself in a different manner, and you have to be smart enough to do that. And I don't know what's going on with the colleges, but not enough of that's going on.
Hmm.
Not enough
So that
peeing in
part
the
of it.
alleys, or not
So yeah,
enough
yeah,
common
but they're
sense?
so much more visible. It's like uh, the Tom Brady thing. You always try to knock guys out. I'm not saying paralyze them or whatever, but that was a part of the game. You go out there, if you could put it, everybody, we all had bounties. You had a certain amount of money, and if you could put a guy out, that meant the game was, maybe coming to your way a little bit. So I think all of that's changed. The social the first comment relates more to social media and the fact that everybody sees everything that you're doing. If you pick your nose, somebody's going to see it. Don't do it.
And buying it.
Is
Yes.
that something that
Exactly.
you've talked to your clients about? Do they hire social media consultants, or as their agent, do you caution them about their social media presence and what they're doing when they're out in public?
No, for a couple of reasons. One is I'm not as active anymore. Social media is somewhat of a new phenomenon, and two, I don't represent knuckleheads. I really don't. I mean, I
That's
represent
smart.
guys who are intelligent and they think and they are extremely successful beyond. And if you just look at the list that's in the book, you say these guys they're great successes. They're good stories.
Yeah. I have to ask you, what is that on the wall behind your head? Is that
What
a
is that?
bird? I'm
Oh,
sorry. It's just
yes, yes,
right
yes.
above your
Right behind me there. Okay, yes, that's a ringneck pheasant.
Oh.
Yes, and that was from my own property, and it's I had it in first a Victorian house, and in the Victorian era there was a lot of that took place that they would
Mhm.
have wild game and all that. So
Okay.
I'm from the country. I'm from the country. I hick.
I don't want to put I don't want to put you on the spot, but I do have to ask: is there a favorite story from your book that sticks out? I know there's a bunch of great ones, but is there one that kind of stands out in your mind?
I think a lot of people like the Bob Ursay story. If I haven't told it before, if you haven't heard it, I think we have a little. Do you want me to try to
Yes,
tell it?
yes,
Yeah, sure.
please.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Bob Ursay was the owner for the Indianapolis Colts, and he's the one. His mother says about him, he's the devil. That one. Uh, the resume and the game plan with Bob was whatever you did, don't drink with him. He's not only a drunk, he's a bad drunk. And you got to get out of there before noon. And I had a quarterback, Craig Erickson from Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he was going to be traded to Bob Ursay, and Bob wanted to see him work out. And his GM, Bob Turpening, a good friend, used to call me and ask me if it'd work out. But Richie McKay with the Falcons, who was with Tampa at the time, says, Ralph, you just can't let him work out. He wasn't a workout warrior. So I kept telling Bob no, and he asked what he was going to tell old Bob Ursay, and I said, tell Bob to go take a bar of soap in the bathroom. That's what I did. And so finally, Irsay says, well, I've seen enough of it. That's it. Bring him in. We want to meet. So I make sure I meet early because I don't want to be drinking. If it's noon, he starts drinking. He's a mean drunk. So it goes 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, nothing. Finally, he's miffed, like this snorting, and outside of the swine world, snorting's probably not a real good sign. And so he says, we got nothing to toast. He says, you want a drink? I said, what the hell would I have to lose right now? I ruined all my time and all the rest, and I wrestled and I played, and I look around and we're big band music is playing in his bar, and I figured we'd have a nice cocktail glass and whatever. And I said, sure. I said, what are you drinking? He said, vodka. I said, is it any good? And of course that miffed him a little bit, but so he pulls out a sleeve of stadium cups, and he goes and he pours, just about 2 inches in his cup, and he goes with mine, and he pours it about 2 inches too, and I push my cup up like Dan Aykroyd in that one movie when he was in the restaurant, the Blues Brothers or one of them, he pushing it up, and so Bob Irsay pushes it up, and he takes a sip of his, and he's looking at me, and I do it all. One gulp, boom! I smash down the cup. I just in front of him, and he jumps. And I said, "Oh, here we go." And I'm tightening up. Now he's an older man, but he reminded me of my dad. Big, thick, mean. And he's the type of guy who would sucker punch you, which means he'd come out, And so he jumped that way, and I tighten up. He starts going up and down the bar. He said, here, try this one. It's from Poland. This one's from Poland. Here, we got this one. Czechoslovakia, try this one. And so get totally blasted. I mean, just paralyzed. I had to go in and use the restroom, and, I'm not sure I hit anything in there. It reminds me of a coach that one time coach, he went to his owner's house, and he had to use the bathroom. He went into the closet. This took a whiz right in the closet.
Nice.
So I go back out with Bob, and I know I'm in trouble. I want to get out of there. And he asked if I had a coat and tie, and my dad always had me do that. And so I told him, yeah. He wanted to take me to a barn party where those morons who write books are trying to sell their books. It was a book party, was what it was. And so he takes me up to his barn party, and he goes around, and he's introducing me as his son to everybody in this whole. Hey, I'd like you to meet my son, Ralph. And he'd do that all up and down, and and this is one of the nastiest owners ever in the NFL. We get to the end of the evening, and he says, "I'd like to meet you. Like to see you in the morning for coffee and donuts." And I tell him I don't like donuts. I figure I'm family now. I want to help. And I see him in the next morning, and sure enough, we get the thing done in about an hour. And I don't know whether anybody ever did that with him or whatever else, but it was a monster contract. We got everything we wanted on the front and everything on the back, and so now every time I have vodka, but I like to do it in a nice Waterford glass. I do a toast to my friend Bob Irsay, and I said, Bob, here's to you. I don't know where you are, but I know this. If you were cremated, you're still burning. And chug it down.
That's funny. Well, if you've got any extra brandy snifters, definitely send them my way, because I am a terror with glass. I don't know how I've managed to hang on to my wine glasses. I'm having to use this little, which is what really kind of a high roller glass, but anyway, he sounds almost like a Godfather movie.
Yeah.
Well, this guy was pretty notorious. Everybody was afraid of him because he was so belligerent, and he wasn't. It was one of those things. Even with the other owners, they just all wanted to avoid him because of his personality. It was. I just hit it off with him. I don't know. And I did a later contract with him, Trev Alberts, which was a high draft choice, and we got that done without any problem too. So I got along with the old man, but I was able to do that with Art Rooney Sr., which was a good feel, and really with a lot of the other guys. There were a few. Jimmy Johnson, we threw down at the Senior Bowl. I wanted to kick his butt.
Yeah.
But yes, and it was over Mark Stepnoski, and he's he said, you better not do something effing hold out Stepnoski, and he said it to me twice, and I said, let's go. And we start going at the back, the Senior Bowl, and I spin him around, and old Bobby Ackles just gets my arm right as I'm ready to throw on him. And then Jerry Jones comes in and steps in front of me. Now, Jerry backed the hell off because he knew I had done Herschel Walker's contract. So that was the big trade. So he saw that, and Jerry kind of beholden to me a little bit because that made his, and we had a good relationship, and Jerry knew that I'd throw down. You know, and that's the difference with these guys. Not sucker punch. Jerry or Jimmy would have sucker punched. But the long and short of it is we were able to get it done, and it worked out just super for really all of us. And Jerry will tell that story to whoever will listen to him.
Well, it really does sound like it's all about relationships, which is pretty much the key to everything in life, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah, I think so, and you know, especially in this type of business, you can have your fights, but when it's over, it's time to shake hands, and there's a mutual respect. I used to Bill Polian. I mothered Bill Polian so many times, and we just square it off. I mean, it was one of those, and he was just your stereotype, typical Irish guy who just had a temper, and we would go at it. But I loved the guy, respected him, pushed hard for him, whatever I could do in a Hall of Fame, but certainly was very much for that. I knew the brilliance of what he did long before a lot of other people.
Well, I'm so excited to read it. Tell everybody where they can buy your new book, NFL Brawler.
You know, Amazon has it. Really, all of them. Barnes and Noble. Although I go into them, they say they're in there. Where are they? I don't see them. But they have. But now people are telling me, yeah, that it was in a store here and that it sold out. Well, it sounds good when they say sold out, but they only put a few in unless you're, you know, one of the somebody with a big stroke out there. But it is doing extremely well, you know, thank goodness, and I'm very pleased with how it came out, and not embarrassed about anything yet that's in there, but it took a lot of time and a lot of, I guess, just reviewing and having a lot of input.
All right, here it is. I'm going to show. There you go. That is where you can buy it. This is the Amazon.com webpage. NFL Brawler, a player turned agent, 40 years in the bloody trenches, which I'm sure is completely accurate there. Ralph, thanks again. We've kept you far too long. I'm so sorry that we went over, but literally I could spend hours just listening to you tell stories.
Well, that's very kind, and thank you for having me on. It's a wonderful show, and you all do a great job, and just very much appreciate the opportunity to come on with you.
Well, we hope that you'll come
back.
Thank
you so much. Yes.
Ralph, I just want to let you know, if you look at the bookstores in the Cleveland area, all the stuff written by Yinzers is in the back by the bathroom.
I was going to tell you. I was trying to think of when I'm hearing Lions, and I'm thinking, well, Russ Thomas, the old GM with the Lions, someone I dealt with. Now in the Browns, I had Ernie Accorsi. I had, but no memorable stories that I can recall there. Maybe it was just because it was the Browns.
Probably. If it was memorable, it was memorable in a bad way. So we'll just let that go.
Exactly.
That's terrible. I would never say something like that, particularly being from Pittsburgh.
I said it. Okay.
All right. Thanks again for joining us,
Yep,
Ralph.
thank you, Ralph.
Please come back soon.
I will. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
All right.
Thank you.
That was Ralph Cindrich, a former NFL player turned agent, attorney, and now book writer, with talking about his new book, NFL Brawler. You can find that out. The easiest way to get it is through Amazon.com. Definitely, I have the book. I set aside time last Thursday and Monday and today, and it just hasn't happened. This weekend, nobody's going to bother me. I'm definitely going to
now that you said that, life is going to jinx it. Something's going to happen. Life is going to happen to all of us, and now you've ruined your weekend.
I know.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, that happened last weekend. Like, Saturday was completely nuts, and so, because I bought it last Wednesday, I think it was, and then so it was Thursday, and then Thursday, stuff always happens. It's just so crazy. And of course, you guys know that we were having trouble with Hangouts last week.
Yes, we were.
Yeah, which was
But
kind
that's
of
okay. It happens, right?
yeah. So we didn't even get through our show, which was all kinds of disappointing. So I'm glad that we got that fixed. We're able to have Ralph on tonight. Great,
He's
great,
a funny
great
guy.
stuff.
I like him.
Yeah,
Like him a lot.
he is. All right, so Sonja, let's do your unsung hero segment.
Alrighty, guys. So this week, it's week 2 in the NFL. Lots of good things happening. I had a couple ideas for the unsung hero this week. This one is strictly game related and on the field related. And so, of course, I tweeted out to see if I get any bites or suggestions, and I did get one. And so I'm going to go with that. Chandler Knight, at Chandler Knight, and I do believe he is in our fantasy league as well, ladies. He suggested a one Bilal Powell. And guess what? I'm going with Bilal Powell running backs for the Jets. I love that one. That was a very good suggestion. You know, the Jets beat the Colts, beat them at home pretty handily on Monday Night Football. And, the talk today has been of Andrew Luck, Chuck Pagano throwing Andrew under the bus, and then also, some of the wide receivers, well, both of the wide receivers on the Jets too, but not so much Bilal Powell, who had, I do believe, 100 yards rushing, and able to, really help advance the cause of the Jets and become a really good, solid number 2 running back fantasy-wise too. But that's another story for another day. But
I just picked him up. I'm very happy about it too.
Yes. So, yes, I think Bilal Powell did not get a lot of shine this weekend, so good for you. Kudos to you, Bilal Powell, for being my unsung hero this week. Woo!
Definitely a good choice, Sonja. I like it.
I was also thinking Michael Crabtree, too. He was going to kind of be my other one, but, because the Raiders are just kind of a laughing stock, and they are actually now, are they 1-1? I think they're 1-1.
I think they're 1-1, yeah.
Yeah, but
the Ravens pretty good this week, and I got them on Sunday, so I'm a little more scared after what they did yesterday or Sunday than I was last week looking at my schedule. So they might be just good enough to ruin some people's hopes of the playoffs this year.
That's what I said.
I was thinking that too. I was looking at the Lions' schedule. We'll get there in a little bit, and I was like, ooh, this Raiders game, that's not a gimme anymore.
They're no longer a gimme.
No, they're not.
I think that, and the league is better when the Raiders are better.
I agree. I agree.
So I like it. I definitely like it.
Yes, so please, next week, give me your suggestions after the games. Let me know what you think. I am open to anything. And also, if you've got somebody doing some really good community involvement or something good like that, please let me know so I can shout them out. One of the players, or your team, essentially, is doing something kind of cool. Let me know so I can shout it out. I would love to. So, yeah, that's it for this week's Unsung Hero. Yay!
All right. I like it. Okay, Kate. Let's talk a little bit about that game. And I think Kate knows this. She might even remember it. I said that if the Browns could just make up their freaking mind and decide which quarterback they're going to play, they could be trouble. And lo and behold, it looks like they finally settled in on Johnny Manziel, who that was the right choice. What does he bring to this team, and how excited are you about the possible future?
Well, it's Cleveland, and we can't have nice things, and we can't be happy because, as you saw that quote last week from Alfred Breer, we still don't know who our starting quarterback is this week. If Josh McCown gets cleared, our coaching staff hasn't come out and said, if McCown clears concussion protocol, we're staying with Johnny or we're going back. So I don't know right now who my starting quarterback is going to be. And it's a big debate. Do you're paying Josh McCown $13 million a year. Do you put him back in? He didn't really do anything wrong when he got hurt. And if he's healthy, do you put him back in? Or is Johnny doing well enough that it's time to say, what do we have? I'm leaning towards putting McCown back in, only from the standpoint of Johnny's got that elbow tendonitis. He didn't play the last couple weeks of the preseason or practice. He was very rusty when McCown got hurt and he had to go in that Jets game. And yeah, he looked good this week, but part of that this week was a really great performance from our defense and a very minimal playbook. If you watch that game, we did a lot of fun things in the first half, and then the second half when you're playing with the 21-0 lead, and then as Tennessee started to come back, we were running the ball and killing clock and just trying to get to the end of the game while we still had a lead. And we ended up getting that last touchdown because as Johnny rolled out, Benjamin could see he was in trouble. And Benjamin is someone, I'm telling all of you, I don't know that I would have drafted him in my fantasy football league if I wasn't a Browns fan, but if you have Des Bryant or Eric Decker or T.Y. Hilton or some of these other guys that have been hurt, that are injured, Calvin Johnson who's being completely underutilized by Detroit, and you need to pick somebody up for a week or two. You might want
that woke Sonja up.
That woke Sonja up. So Travis Benjamin and Johnny, have spent a lot of time together last year and this year, and so it was one of those things where Travis knew Johnny was rolling, and he thought if I can just get into his field of vision, he'll see me. Johnny saw him, goes 60 yards and touchdown. And that wasn't the play call. He was just supposed to keep killing the clock. And so that tells me Johnny wants to win. And he's willing to take some chances, and they've been much smarter chances this year as compared to Johnny of last year. So I'm happy with that, but I don't know, and I'm not, this is one of those weeks where I want to be let's face it, every week I want to be in the coach's room when they're watching film and going over the game plan. I want to know if that running was simply because we were ahead and they were trying to kill the clock, or if they had gone through as much of the playbook as Johnny knew and was comfortable with. He'd only had 4 days to practice with the ones. The Jets game, he had just started throwing a football a couple days before, and then so last week was really his first week with the ones, and so maybe there weren't an awful lot of other things for them to put in the second half. And so while he's been here and we're in our second year, it's our first year with Flip's offense, and with his injury, I'm just not sure how comfortable he is with all of the play options. It might be smarter to start McCown and give Johnny a little more time so that when you do put him back in, he's even more ready and you're set up for success. And you also have to look at the matchup you're facing and what the other defense is going to do, what they're going to let you have and what they're not going to let you have. And I don't know that the Raider defense is the right defense for Johnny's style of play. We might be better with McCown. But the reality is, if you know Josh McCown like we all do, he probably won't make it till halftime without hurting himself again. So Johnny will be back in the second half. I would just like to go 2 weeks knowing who my quarterback is and that he's not going to get hurt.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. Did you happen to catch the report by Mike Freeman of Bleacher Report?
No. What does he have to say?
He said that, according to his sources, that Johnny Manziel's problems were a lot more extensive and deeper than what had initially been reported, and that's why he went to rehab, and that's why he spent so long in rehab, and that coming back he has really been able to re-engage the locker room, because he had lost the locker room. I think it was pretty clear.
Absolutely he had. And I think that was one of the big things, one of the big reasons why I didn't think he would start week 1 when the season got underway. Aside from the elbow injury, I thought that your quarterback has to get along with the locker room.
Right.
And I thought they're just going to start Josh McCown, and Johnny needs more time to build up some more, credits in that bank with the veterans to prove that, it's only been, this off season since you've been out of rehab. It's been training camp without being at the bars and the swan pictures and all of that. It's going to take a little more time for the veterans and the other guys in the locker room to trust him. And I think between what he went through in that Jets game and then what he did this week and the way he handled himself off the field with the, he wasn't flipping off anybody. He wasn't mouthing off to fans. He wasn't out partying after the game. He wasn't saying the wrong things when the cameras were in his face. This was a team win, and we did this, and he's saying all the right things that further prove that he's matured and taken a step forward. We all know people who've been to rehab, And we know people who've been multiple times, and I'm never going to drink again, and I'm never going to do this again, and then they fall off the wagon, and then they're back at it. And so I know I have a certain amount of mistrust that Johnny's going to be good forever. I'm going to always be concerned about a setback, and that's just me. And so I'm guessing some of the guys in the locker room have friends and family members who've been through rehab, and so they're not going to take them a while to trust him.
Mm-hmm.
But Sunday's game, the protection he got from the line and just the way all the players reacted to him and worked with him and listened to him showed me that he really has made great strides since last year. And if he's got the locker room back, then they should just keep playing him as long as, the locker room's with him. So it'll be interesting. It's always something here. It's always something here.
Mm-hmm. And I did also read a report where over the summer, I guess his high school coach came up and stayed with him for a while and just kind of helped keep him, in order and in line. So that's good. He's growing. Yeah. He's maturing. Like to see that.
Yeah, I'd really like to see him do well this year.
Yeah, he had to decide, do you want to be an NFL quarterback or not? Because if you don't, that's fine. Daddy has money. You can go home and you can drink and party and do whatever, and girls will still want to go out with you, and it's okay. But with a fan base like ours, really any NFL fan base, but I'm going to say my fan base, I deserve better than that. I deserve a quarterback who actually wants to be my quarterback and who's going to live and breathe and eat and sleep football, at least during the season, if not all year round. And we all deserve that from a quarterback. Maybe there are other positions where you can slack a little bit, but not at quarterback. So if that's not what you want to be, that's fine. Go home and be something else. But if you're going to commit to doing this, you need to do it. And so far, this season, Johnny's doing it.
Yeah, and I agree with your observation about Travis Benjamin. I came this close to picking him up in fantasy football before this last week, and I was just absolutely, and I knew, I forget who I passed him over for now, and as I was clicking, I was like, okay, sure, I'm going to do this, and I'm completely going to regret not picking up, and lo and behold, voila. But speaking of fantasy football and disappointments and stuff, Sonja, what happened to Amir? What happened to Amir Abdullah, and where's Calvin? Where's Megatron? And what's going on?
And if you know, then I don't. I don't know. I don't know. We don't know what's going on. Everybody, that's a big question. What's the play calling? Why is Joe Lombardi being so conservative? Why is Joyke Bell out there when you've got Amir Abdullah who,
I was beside myself.
Needs to run. Everybody was waiting for him, and he's not there. We don't know what's going on. We literally, the fan base, everybody on Twitter is like, what the hell? Seriously.
When I watched Abdullah play a lot when he was in college, and he's one of those runners who needs 25 touches. The more he likes, like you wind him up, the more he runs, the better he gets.
Exactly.
That line, and you need to just let him keep running. He's not a finesse guy. He's not a little guy that's going to do that. He's a guy that's going to almost reminds me more of a Jerome Bettis. He needs at least 25 touches. And I'm like, they knew that when they drafted him, and he's just not.
And he's not getting the touches. You guys do realize that there were only 38 rushing yards in that game on Sunday. 38.
Ridiculous.
For the Eagles, at one point, I believe the Eagles had more penalty yards than rushing yards.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, honestly, that's essentially what it was. And you know who our leading rusher was? It was Matt Stafford. And that you just can't.
That's crazy.
That's never a good sign.
Exactly. That is not a good sign. I mean, is it that? I mean, the offensive line is just Swiss cheese. Let's just put it that way. And we've had a lot of injuries. Our first-round pick is on the bench, and something's not right. We don't know what it is, but something is not right. And I have no idea. Like, I have no clue. I got nothing. Nothing. I don't know what's up with Joe Lombardi. I don't know why he's not calling the plays that he needs to. And I just don't know. I don't know what Caldwell's thinking. Stafford's probably hurt and not saying anything. It's weird.
Who's your backup quarterback?
Book Dano.
Dan Orlovsky.
Dan Orlovsky. And, I don't know. I'm not liking the
A
feeling
lot
right
of
now.
backups are going to be possibly starting this week. I mean,
Exactly.
Well,
Dan
quarterbacks
Orlovsky
are at the
might
top of my injury list.
yeah, might start in Detroit. Well, for the Lions, and then you've
Yeah.
got Jay Cutler's out, and Tony Romo's out for half. I mean,
Yeah.
these injuries are bad.
Piling. They're piling
Cutler's out
up.
for at least 2 weeks with a hamstring sprain. Romo's out for at least 6 weeks with the broken clavicle. I don't know if it's the same one he broke 2 years ago or if it's the other one. Des Bryant, we were talking last week about his broken foot, and if it was the fifth metatarsal, that was going to be a bad sign. It was. They had to do an implant and a bone graft. Now they're saying it could be Thanksgiving before Des Bryant sees the field again. And Jason Witten, probably the only decent target Brandon Whedon had left, sprained both ankles and one of his knees in that game. He's iffy at best.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's questionable.
So the Cowboys went out tonight and made a deal with the Buffalo Bills and traded for Matt Castle. So I'm guessing Whedon will start this week just because he's been in the system for 2 years, but they're going to try to get Matt Castle up to speed as quickly as they can. Jerry Jones can do as many press conferences as he wants talking about what a great throwing arm Brandon Whedon has. I've lived with him for 2 years. He's a head case. I wished he would do well. He's a pitcher. He was a pitcher. That's why he's so old. He was a pitcher in college and in the minor league system before he switched to football, and he plays quarterback like he's on the mound. You don't have all day when you're a quarterback to look at somebody and be yes or no and wait for signs.
Get the signs.
It's about the pitch, and that's Brandon's problem. We talked last week about Gary Barnidge taking people to the movies, and I sat next to Brandon Whedon the week that I won and got to go to the movies, and we actually talked. And I took him outside and I said, listen, you probably don't need unsolicited advice to me, but I'm feeling a little motherly towards you since I am like twice your age. Quit thinking about it. Just go with your gut. You are thinking too much, and there's no time to overthink it when you're in the pocket. And he played really well for a couple weeks and then right back to what he was doing. And that's what will happen to him in Dallas. So he'll be all right, but from what I can tell, Terrence Williams is the only weapon they have left. I don't know if anyone else is healthy enough to even play on Sunday.
I like Cole Beasley. I think he's a guy
I was about to
that
say Cole Beasley is one guy that you can throw in there.
And Gavin Escobar is another guy to keep an eye on. Very young, promising tight end that they drafted out of San Diego State a few years ago. Okay. Took him a little longer to get going than I expected, but I mean he's playing behind Jason Witten. What are you going to do, right?
Right, exactly.
Another team that's getting hit by the injury bug big this week were the Green Bay Packers. Eddie Lacy left the game. I had on one of my fantasy teams, I had Andrew Luck, Eddie Lacy, and Alshon Jeffrey, who I thought was going to start, and they ended up at a game time decision didn't play him. He was inactive, so of course that was all bad for me. But with the Packers, you've got Eddie Lacy left the game with an ankle injury. He's very, very questionable for this week. So if you've got Starks, his backup, that's going to be something to watch in the smart play. And Devontae Adams, the guy that everybody went out and drafted after Jordy Nelson got hurt, also has a sprained ankle. He is questionable at best for this week. So, Randall Cobb, I still don't think has healed himself from the hamstring sprain that he suffered in the preseason. Mm-hmm. So Aaron Rodgers is starting to run out of weapons himself.
Yeah. Fortunately, Richard Rodgers is looking a lot better, starting to get into a little bit of a rhythm with Aaron Rodgers. And I think you're very talented young guy, Ty Montgomery. When I could, I was able to pick him up in some best ball leagues. But yeah, their injury situation is definitely troubling. Fortunately, they've got Aaron Rodgers, and they made it past the Seahawks. So
yeah, they did.
There's that.
Yeah, it's been a weird first couple weeks. I'm surprised at some teams that are winless, and I'm surprised at some teams that are 2-0. So it's a long season. It's a short season, but it feels, it's a long season where I would say after week 4, things will start to shake out, and we'll have a better idea of who's really actually got a good football team in each of the divisions. But it's been interesting here.
What were your best and worst fantasy football decisions this past week, Sonja? We'll start with you.
Best one, I think, was having, who did I have? I had Green Bay's wide receiver, Jason Jones, not him.
Oh, James Jones.
Yeah, James Jones. I had him, and that was a very, very good decision. My worst decision in my other that PPR league, I had Golden Tate and D'Angelo Williams, and D'Angelo Williams did really good on my bench, and
Yeah.
Tate gave me some points, but not D'Angelo Williams points. So those were my best and worst.
What about you, Kate?
But mine are similar. I actually started D'Angelo Williams this week. Very happy with that. It'll be interesting to see with Le'Veon Bell coming back.
Exactly what he'll be doing.
It'll take him a while to get into the swing of things, or if I'm going to play Williams, I think one more week and then see what Pittsburgh does, and then he may not get the touches he needs. And one of the things about Travis Benjamin, he was on my bench in 2 different leagues. I was checking the stats just to see. He's only owned by like 22% of the fantasy football leagues nationwide, and I'm willing to bet those are all people from Cleveland who are playing, because nobody else thinks there's anyone on this team worth drafting. And I know that the 2 teams that I picked him up on, I got him in like the 15th round or the 17th round. It was like I need to have one Cleveland player on my roster just for my homerism. And so I'm like, I'm gonna grab Benjamin. So I grabbed the Cleveland defense in 2 leagues, which got me a ton of points this week, and Travis Benjamin in 2, but I didn't start him because even though I had him, I didn't really believe he would do as well. And now I'm afraid this might be the last week that he's worth playing, because now that he's really fully healed from the injury he had last year, and teams are going to have 3 good solid weeks of film on him, and they're not going to leave him alone. He's definitely not, Megatron or Gronkowski, but he's the only threat we have right now, and I'm willing to bet Oakland's going to have him covered up pretty well. I think he can escape them, but we've got some tough games coming up where he's not going to be able to escape the corners that are going to be keeping an eye on him. So our secret weapon, this may be the last week for our secret weapon, but I left him on my bench.
Well, I played Amir Abdullah over LaShawn McCoy, much to my chagrin.
I'm so sorry.
I know that was not a good one, and this wasn't necessarily a bad decision, but it was heartbreaking. Sitting there watching Monday Night Football last night, I knew I had Eric Decker. He was my last player to play in this one league, and he was doing really good, and I had 19 points, and I was all excited, and then I didn't see him for a while, and I'm like, where'd he go? And lo and behold, he had some injury, and so I popped back on my ESPN fantasy team, and I was tied.
Ugh.
So what happened to Sharona? She tied because Eric Decker didn't finish the game. The worst.
That is the worst.
My husband is in our NFL female league.
Yeah.
And he had to make a quarterback decision this week. And so I said to him, based on the matchups and who they were playing, that he should bench Aaron Rodgers and he should start Tony Romo. And so I will be sleeping on the couch.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm sleeping on the couch.
Yeah, you are.
I just thought, from a matchup standpoint and looking at the defenses they were playing, I know you never bench Rodgers, but I'm looking like, oh, he's going to have a terribly hard game, and it's going to be rough, and he's probably not going to. Apparently, just being able to play the whole game is better.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. Although it doesn't always work out that way. I also had a really weird situation with Carlos Hyde, who left the game with a possible concussion, was checked out, passed the concussion protocol, but the San Francisco 49ers held him out anyway, which as someone who wants to see these guys live a long, healthy life, I like it. I wonder if that's a byproduct of what happened with Chris Borland, because I'd never really heard of that before. Teams just don't do that. If the guy clears, he's back out on the field.
He's back in there, yeah.
So that was kind of weird. That was a little weird one.
I'm looking because I read something that everybody was talking about it being a head injury, but the 49ers are saying he actually bruised his thigh.
Oh, head, thigh, they look alike.
So even though he cleared the concussion protocol, they were still worried about his thigh, and that's why they kept him out. But it is weird. I think part of that you're going to see more of because of the concussion protocol and the way the NFL is treating things now, even if you clear, they still have the authority to come back in during the following week and check on you. And so I think teams are deciding, depending on which player it is and how important they are, to maybe let you rest the rest of the game to make sure you don't re-injure yourself so that you're good for the rest of the season.
Well, I guess we'll see if that happens with a team other than the 49ers, because it's kind of a weird thing with these so-called outside professionals that the league has hired. Not all of them have medical backgrounds or are doctors, which is
kind of weird.
Come on, guys. I mean, the NFL just can't get right. They just can't get right.
Right, exactly.
They let the players do baseline testing before the season, and so they're just basically having someone come in and perform the test and then compare the two tests together. But I've heard at least 3 different professional athletes tell me they could fake a baseline test right now if they had to.
Yeah.
And they know how to get the right results on the test, so if they have to take it again later, they know what to do to get through it and get back on the field. So I'm with you, Sharona. I applaud their effort to try to do something, but it feels like too little too late. They're not doing something that matters. They're putting people through all of these hoops, and it's not what's going to fix the problem. They're not really taking care of these guys. But we'll see.
We shall.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely see how that situation does continue to. I had not heard about any sort of thigh injury. Well, that's kind of weird too. I guess I don't know. It was definitely a come back to earth type of game for the Niners. So for them to look so good in week 1 and so bad in week 2, we'll just have to see how the rest of the season goes. I forget which one of you ladies said it, but yeah, I'm surprised at some of the teams that are 0-2 and 2-0, and there's definitely a lot of football left to play.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I'm surprised too, but right now I'm really kind of concerned. I'm not trying to be a homer right now, but I'm really kind of concerned about the Lions. I'm really concerned. I mean, started 3 of 4 on the road, and just how awful they looked on Sunday. And I mean,
who do they have this next week?
Broncos at home on Sunday Night Football, and then after that, they go out to Seattle. So yeah,
That's brutal.
It
is
awful.
brutal.
It's awful. I mean, so that's why I was telling Seattle fans to kind of chill on Sunday. Like, no, we're 0-2. You guys relax. You have the Bears at home this week. You've got the Lions at home the week after. You'll at least be 2-2 after the first 4 games. Whereas I think we could really be looking at 0-4, 0-5 even.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little weird right now. Oof.
Yeah, it's definitely so far a crazy season in the league. Shout out to Ralph Cindrich for joining us tonight. Great stuff. We could talk to him for hours.
Oh, yeah, he's hilarious.
Buy his book, NFL Brawler. Next week we will be joined by former NFL tight end and Tennessee Titan and Florida Gator, Ben Troop. We'll talk about his time playing in the league and what he's been up to since he retired. And then we've got some great shows planned after that. Sonja, why don't you fill us in?
Yep. Hopefully in the next couple weeks after Ben comes on, we will be transitioning over to Spreecast, so make sure everybody get hooked up with Spreecast. And then we will get started with our run of NFL female reporters. So, of course, we just love having our sisters on to be able to talk and just, show off what they know. So we're going to have some of our OFRs on. We're going to also have some of our division OFRs on. So we're going to have a lot of fun seeing the girls getting to, talk about the teams and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yep, me too.
Maybe even get in some college talk too. So yeah, excited.
We definitely need to. We definitely need to talk about some college football. No time tonight, but roll Tide, I suppose.
Maybe-ish.
Ole Miss is my new second favorite college team.
Ole Miss beat Bama. What about it? What up?
That was beyond amazing, man.
Oh, wow.
I can't say anything without sounding like Big Ten Homer girl, but, you know, I'm still winning. I may not be winning pretty, but I'm still winning.
Yeah, you
I'm
are.
not happy with my offense at all, and when I hear Sonja talk about her Lions and I don't know what they're doing, I could say the same thing about my Buckeyes offense. I don't know what they're doing. I have not. We're winning 38-0 against Hawaii, and I'm still uncomfortable the whole time. Like, I don't know what we're doing, and this NIU game was too close for me. I'm seriously in my house going, I have to sit through Browns football on Sunday, Ohio State. You cannot do this to me on Saturday. I need my Saturday good football to survive what I'm going to have to face on Sunday. And I actually had 2 wins this weekend. Apparently, Marcus Mariota does not like the state of Ohio because he's now been beaten by the Buckeyes and the Browns this year. And I checked the schedule, and they don't play the Bengals. So the only 2 trips to Ohio have been bad for him this year.
Funny.
All right, everybody.
All right. Well, the hour goes by so fast. Sonja, why don't you
does.
get us set up to exit stage left, and then I'll take us out.
All right. Well, thanks again, as always. Thanks to Ralph Cindrich for coming on and joining us. Everybody go pick up his book, NFL Brawler. Not Baller, but Brawler. You can get it on Amazon. I am Sonja, the official fan reporter for the Detroit Lions. You can find me on Twitter at mom, 2, 3 RN. And as always, it's great being with you guys. And so we'll see you later. Sharona?
All right. Kate, tell everybody where they can find you.
I am Cleveland Kate, the official fan reporter for NFL Female, covering the Cleveland Browns. You can find me on Twitter at CLVLNDK, 8.
All right. Again, I'm Sharona. You can follow me on Twitter at Sports by Sharona. You can catch me every Monday and Wednesday on Back Talk with Sharona, talking about all kinds of things, including sports, the NFL. Tomorrow morning, we'll be talking about the Seattle Seahawks with Dana O'Gorman, our NFL female OFR for the Seattle Seahawks, and the Baltimore Ravens with Gwen Robinson, who is our OFR for the Baltimore Ravens. And I'll also be talking to Liz Loza with your fantasy football fix, and the man himself, Brad Wells, talking about the 0-2 Indianapolis Colts. So stay tuned in for that. Back next week with another great edition of the Zone Blitz by NFL Female. Shout out to Liz. As always, we love you. Mwah. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great evening.